What's up? So this is another one of those times where I was not going to say anything about this. Please don't be my ENVs. Thank God. Okay, I wasn't gonna say anything about this because I've been off and on. Kid's been home the last couple of days, so I haven't been able to like. For me, I'm a weird type of thinker. I need the full 12-hour day to really get some stuff going, and so getting 2 hours here or there or 30 minutes here or there throughout the day, it might equal 6, 7, 8 hours, but that's not just the way my brain works. So I've been working off and on, trying to get this thing right. And I've been going, hold on. Is it even an accurate reflection of, so I was in here too, going back and forth multiple ways. And then I was out here doing something else out here. I can't find the file, but I was just going all over the place, man, all over the place. Essentially, what I was trying to do is I realized Jules had asked me a question and I didn't know the answer. I mean, I knew the answer, but as I was thinking through it logically and typing it in and explaining it, I was like, this doesn't make sense. it like it makes sense how I constructed it in the way that I had, but when it comes to just, if you think about databases and relationships and product, if you think about all these things together, you're looking at it in a way that's like, okay, if this action this is product logic, right? So back end, if this thing happens, then that needs to happen, then that needs to happen, right? So things are triggering other things. Similar to if you've ever used Zapier. That's where I get all of my knowledge of kind of how to position some of these things on the backside. Is through working with Zapier for a decade. And so if you think about like how logic should work, and then inside of that, you start thinking about, okay, well, if that's how logic should work, then how can pieces of information, which is like your database, it's a base for your data, literally. You start thinking about, okay, well, if I need the logic to work in a certain way, and each piece of data that the logic is going to either capture, trigger, or push or pull, I guess pull is basically trigger, or sorry, push is basically trigger. If you're looking at the way that your logic needs to operate, you then need to be able to pull information that makes sense. Well, part of that means that your data has to talk to each other in specific ways. So when I first set up this database with Bolt, I was kind of just marching through it, and I kind of ended up in a place where my backend logic for my advertisers didn't match the backend logic for my publishers. And the reason why that's important is because at this point, like Echo Press is going to essentially be charging three ways. They're going to have a one way, which is the publisher is going to get a baseline $20 fee. Second thing is that they're going to be able to charge their readers to have a paid newsletter. And the third thing is they're going to be able to charge advertisers to advertise on this newsletter. So they can make money two different ways. We make money all three ways. So we take a cut of a little bit of the cut of the paid newsletter, a little bit of the cut of the advertiser revenue. I think it's like 10%, and then we charge them $20. Essentially because we're doing all this on the back end. And so if they're already putting out their audio on their podcast and all they're giving us is an RSS feed, we're essentially we're keeping track of their users. We're running an advertising bidding. We're running an ad platform that has bidding mechanisms and algorithms put inside of it. But on top of that, we are building out automatic placements of those ads. We have an ad approval workflow that we had to build from scratch. We have to take the RSS feed, scrape the audio, transcribe the audio, turn that transcription into content blocks, turn those content blocks into daily newsletters, and then manage the subscriptions and the payouts from both the advertisers and the readers. So all that has to be done. So we're like, we deserve to be able to make a little money. And so in there, I realized that for that bidding piece to happen, the publisher has to be able to relate to the advertiser. However, I wanted it to be an automatic content approval, a manual content approval, but that's automatic for the publisher side, manual for the advertiser side. So for the advertiser, I wanted them to be able to look at like when they're putting in their bid and they're selecting which piece of content, I want there to be a rendering of a newsletter, because all newsletters, how we're thinking of is that all the newsletters will have 3 specific advertising blocks. Now, a publisher could say that they only want 1 to 3 advertiser blocks in their newsletter, but an advertiser, if there's 3 allowed, an advertiser can choose to have 1, 2, or 3 blocks and take up all those blocks of ads. Now, there are only going to be 1 advertiser per issue of a newsletter. And so in that regard, we needed there to be a matching system that allows for, if an advertiser wanted to have 3 ads on a newsletter, and they could see the rendering of where the ads would be placed, so that when they wrote the content or uploaded the images, they would be able to see like what it would look like on a rendering of a newsletter. But on the other side, they would never get surfaced to a publisher that only wants 1 ad when they're doing their search. So to do all of that, we had to create some kind of intense logic on top of already the AI logic of just creating the newsletters in the first place. And then we had to build a custom subscriber, not just UI, but like billing logic, because we also wanted to make sure that that people could, kind of like, honestly, like Substack in that regard. And so in our heads, we're trying to build this thing out for podcasters who really want to be able to turn their content into something else. And so that is essentially what we're doing here. And in order to do that, I was using Jules because I'm still testing her out, but it's funny. I was doing Jules, I was doing ChatGPT, and I was doing Bolt all at the same time. So this is what the reader, it didn't work. Where is it at? Here. Okay, so the reader interface will look kind of like this, except they'll receive it in their email. Advertisers will look like this. So they'll be able to see all these things. This isn't really coded up very well. Oh, okay. It's better than I thought it would be. Oh, okay. Okay, Bolt, you were cooking a little bit. And then the publisher side will look like this. And so we also need to have logic. See, that's not right. We also need to have a logic where one person can be an advertiser, a publisher, and a reader all at the same time. So we'd have that logic built in the background too. So we're still moving on this, but it's taking a little bit slower than we thought. Oh, I like that. And I think if I click this, what'll happen? I don't want to risk it. Let's see what happens. I don't like how they removed this discussion. There used to be a button here that said discuss. And now if you say attempt to fix, it doesn't do it properly right way. Okay, anyways, so we'll have the background. We haven't connected the Railway backend cloud deployment, which has our backend code here. We haven't adjusted that to attach that to the front end yet. We're gonna do that. We had to get our, oh, nope, don't want to show that information. We had to get our stripes. I think that has my API key in it. I think we want to, it's not the public, it's the public one, not the one that's supposed to be secret, but you never know. So we had to go back and forth to navigate, okay, what are we going to do here? And so Jules was great. We had to get creative with ChatGPT to help us with the logic. And so sometimes what I found is that when I'm going through like a problem, Again, I said this before, my computer's working like molasses right now. I apologize. I said this before, but if you are ChatGPT, I use Claude to code. I'm not using Jules to code, and I'm about to test out. I was going to do Claude Max, but I literally don't have enough time in the day. That's my biggest constraint right now, is that I don't have capacity to build out all the products that I have, like the actual capacity, like the time to write the code. Even though I'm using agentic software, it takes time to do this stuff, as I'm about to tell you. And so in here, I have all these conversations with ChatGPT. So when I go in and I say at the top of it, I want to shift around the logic of my application. I didn't even know that was called a refactor because I don't know how to code, but now I know it's called a refactor. And so it was helping me. Again, it's struggling right now. My whole computer's struggling. So it was helping me with just understanding like how to make SQL calls that would, I mean, essentially what I asked it to do, which I didn't know it could. I gave it the command, or asked for commands for, what is happening? I asked for commands, for SQL commands for Supabase, so that I could pull all of the content and then I could pull all of the relationships of that content. Because when I went to do something like remove a couple tables in Bolt, Bolt gave me an error that said, hey, you can't do that because there's some relationships you don't understand that are going to be broken. So I went to ChatGPT and said, hey, give me the commands to run an SQL editor, which is in here. And so you just run it. And so I literally ran this command right here. Where is that? And I took this and said, copy as JSON. And then I had another one that had the relationships to each one. So then I plugged both of those. I knew the logic, and I plugged both of those back into ChatGPT and said, hey, okay, here's the logic. Here's the two like explanations of my entire database schema. Here's what I'm trying to do. And then told it what I was trying to do. Put it on O3, not 4.0, and had it help me like work through it. And I took that answer and then put it into Jules and said, hey, you had a question. I wanted to answer it, but I couldn't. And I spent 4 hours, about 3.5 hours, getting all the pieces in play, making sure the database was updated, make sure the code, the front end code, the back end code was updated, so that what I was telling Jules existed actually did exist. And then I had it run the command that ChatGPT gave me. So I had multiple windows of ChatGPT open. I had Bolt open. I have Jules open. I had GitHub Codespaces open. I had my GitHub front end, my back end, and then my front end from my GenPrompt framework doc, and my back end of my GenPrompt framework doc. So I'm going back and forth all to make it so that I could charge, the way I wanted to, because the Stripe integration for Bolt is great. But again, this is why I changed the name of this channel, is that it doesn't go far enough for what I was trying to do. I just told you I'm trying to charge 3 different ways, and inside of that I have a bidding, essentially like a bidding algorithm that we set up from scratch that it needs to run off of, and Bolt couldn't do that. And so I had to create all of these like different custom outcomes that was really kind of fun, because I've started to learn that like I saw someone say that agentic platforms, coding platforms like Claude Code and things like that, that they're not creating new ways to think about things. And I think that is, at first I was like, I don't believe that. But then I thought, oh, they must be talking about developers, because if you're writing code and you know how code's supposed to work, I've seen the most people that I've seen dig in and not have good responses about some of these coding tools are people who are engineers. But as someone who's not an engineer, who can just use my business mind, this stuff is wide open. I didn't know I could create a bidding algorithm, but I did. And now, guess what? I have a component that I can, if I want a bidding algorithm for any other tool that I ever come up with, I now have a bidding algorithm. It's the same thing for outbound and inbound call for 11 Labs. It's the same thing for some of the logic that I have for reference one in terms of evaluating candidates that we're about to roll right on into our interviewing app, where we're going to build a custom ATS app from scratch, because I've never used an ATS, but I have an idea of how I would want one to work if I did use one. And so I'm going to continue to do these experiments that is kind of not held to, look, there it is, the bidding. That was the bidding algorithm. It's not really an algorithm. It's more like a mechanic that has intense math in it. And so, yeah, it's just really cool. I mean, it takes time. Like all of this that I'm explaining to you right now took me about, oh my gosh, 10 hours maybe plus over the last like 6 days trying to like redo this, which again, I didn't know it was called a refactor, but essentially like redoing the logic so that I could build more capabilities and functionality while still simplifying the front end for the users, both readers. Oh yeah, that was another thing I had to do because I just had like one user type, or I had three user types, but one user table that would split the three types. It's kind of like a selection, like a drop down selection that would be automatic. And what I kind of figured out is like, wait, if I really want this to not scale, but if I want it to have the same logic that I really believe in terms of building on future, in terms of taking down data and then turning it into something that is actionable. Like if I wanted to create a data dashboard from scratch, I need my users to be split out, and I need the actions that inform those users to be split out too. So I knew that I had to create a publishers. Again, I just had like one user profile tab, and it just had the user ID and then what user type they are. And so I realized, wait, no, I need more. I need for publishers to be able to have their episodes. So it'll come here, publishers, they'll put in their publisher profile, their RSS feed. The RSS feed will then like pull down all of the audio and upload them back as episodes, as transcripts. We don't want to keep audio. Audio and video costs more money than text to display back. And so my tactic is to store text, but then export and import audio, because I know 11 Labs. So I can take the transcripts of something and then spin it back out to the user in audio, which is cheaper than storing the audio myself. Does that make sense? So we'll have the episodes that are here transcribed in text, and then those will be broken into content blocks, and then they'll be recorded as articles. Those articles are what the readers will actually read. But the best part about having all these episodes is that if a podcaster decides to take a hiatus or quit or something like that, we can take all of the text from their episodes to create new articles by splicing and slicing and dicing them. We can kind of, since we're putting them into content blocks, like I can give a command that says, okay, for the next week, take a random assortment of 3 to 5 content blocks and restructure them as new articles that hasn't been read before. You can either make them listicles, you can make them summarizations, key points, you can make them lead magnets, combinations, whatever, or you can make them brand new articles. So we need that to be its own space. For the advertisers, we need for them to have advertisers, and we need to have their ad placements, and then we need to have their favorites, so that when they're searching through our database of all these publications, they're able to mark their favorites, and that'll help them speed up their search process. And then for readers, and then down here, subscribers that the publisher need to know, but really that's for us so that we can have a good idea. And then we have readers and reader subscriptions. That's just to keep track of like paid, like what they're paying for, and to keep track of the readers. And then the analytics will just kind of help us like piece everything together. So all these pieces didn't exist like 10 hours ago. It was just like episodes, newsletters, users, and I think we did have ad placements and we had articles. But we had to just go through and say, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why would we do that? All right, so I've already looked through all this code. Uh-oh. Where's it at? Okay. I already did this beforehand, so I don't need to do this again. 1,400 lines of code. Yeah, so it's gonna send an ad placement, or it's gonna send an invoice, because businesses like invoices versus just like pulling out a card. And then what we'll also have is we're gonna do something that's like a timing aspect of it, but I haven't figured out how to word it yet. And the timing aspect will be like, okay, this is going back and forth, right? As far as like the ad approval process. Do I have to go to gym soon? As far as the ad approval process. So essentially what needs to happen is that publisher needs to have articles out. Advertiser needs to find them. When the advertiser finds them, then they submit a bid, because we don't want the publishers to be able to set their own price. We want them to receive price and be able to get a bid. So advertiser will submit a bid. And in that bid, they'll say how many issues they want to be featured in, what placements they want, and issues they need, what placements they want. What was it? Oh, and the price they want to pay per issue. Publisher will get that notification. They will look at it. They will examine like whether they want that brand, whether they want, this in. And then they'll say, like they'll accept the bid, okay? They'll accept the bid. At that point, wait, am I doing that right? They'll accept the bid. At that point, the advertiser will receive a kind of like an invoice for that. Oh, sorry, no, they won't. Then it changes statuses. Then the advertiser has like a certain amount of time. Like I think I'm going to put it like 12 hours to submit the content for the placement. So if they ask for 3 placement, they got to submit it for 3 placements. If they have to do it for just 1, they have to submit it for 1. Once they submit that, the publisher will get a notification. They'll get to see the copy, make comments, whatever, and then approve it or reject it or whatever. And then that gets put in queue. Once the ad gets put in queue, there might be 1,000 ads on this one publisher. Once that goes to live, once that flips to live, then the publisher is, or the advertiser, wow, this is a lot in my head. The advertiser is sent an invoice from Stripe, because we want the publisher to pay our platform fee to be self-serve, just like a typical Stripe, subscription with a credit card, and we want their readers to also be a pretty simple subscription. But we also know that advertisers are probably going to be going through business units, and so they're needing to invoice. They want ACH. They want all these like different other types of payment possibilities, and so we want to do that by sending them a Stripe invoice. So it takes a lot of logic. It was outside the realm of okay, went ahead and merged that. Cool. And as you can see, that was only one task. Like, Jules went to work. She did 9 things, one task. I'm actually finding it hard to like use her as much as I wish I could. So, all right, that's the end of this video. See ya.